In the fall of 1851, I, Sam Houston, received an invitation that would forever change my understanding of the limits between the physical and the spiritual world. I had just left the Senate of the United States, disillusioned with politics in Washington and eager to return to my roots in Texas. It was then that a delegation of my old friends Cherokee came to my house with an unusual proposal. Among them was Eagle of the Storm, a man I had known decades earlier, when I lived with the Cherokee after leaving Tennessee. Her hair was now splashed in white, but her eyes kept the same penetrating intensity. Big Crow, he called me by my name Cherokee. We were chosen to participate in something that happens only once with each generation. The Comanche invited us to the last hunt. I was intrigued. The Comanche were known for their ferocity and rarely invited strangers to their sacred ceremonies. The relationship between Cherokee and Comanche had been historically tense, making the invitation even more surprising. Why do I asked. I'm not Cherokee for blood. You lived among us. You learned our customs. Most important, Storm Eagle has lowered the voice. You walk between two worlds, white and red. This will be necessary for what is to come. 3 days later, we left 5 Cherokee, including Storm Eagle and me. We traveled west, towards the Staked Plains, the heart of the territory Comanche. During the trip, my companions explained more about the last hunt. Every 50 winters, told Storm Eagle as we ride under a cloudless sky, a special herd appears on the plains. White buffaloes like the mountain snow. But they are not ordinary buffalo. Another Cherokee, a young man named Gray Wolf, added, it's the ancestral spirits who take physical form. They come to choose a new guardian from the borders. Guardian of what? I asked. From the borders between the worlds, answered Eagle of the Storm solemnly. Between what is seen and not seen, between what was and what it will be. I confess that, at that moment, despite my years living between the Cherokee and my respect for their traditions, a part of me, the educated part in white civilization, remained skeptical. But he had learned that the world contains mysteries that our Western philosophy cannot explain. After a week of travel, we reached the meeting point, a large valley surrounded by red cliffs. There we found the Comanche. They were about 20 warriors, led by an elderly boss named Black Bull, whose face marked by time seemed sculpted in the mountain stone. The reception was formal, almost ritualistic. Black Bull examined me at length before speaking. The white man who lived as Cherokee, he said in his tongue, which I understood reasonably well. I heard about you, Sam Houston. They say you understand the old paths. I try to understand, I answered with humility. We'll see, he said enigmatically. The last hunt will reveal the truth of each man. That night around the fire, Black Bull explained the rules of the hunt. It would start at dawn and last 3 days. During this time we would look for the white buffalo. But there were restrictions. No firearm would be allowed, only traditional archers and spears. And most importantly, only a hunter would be chosen by the spirits to make the ritual killing. How will we know who was chosen? I asked. Black Bull smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. White buffalo chooses their hunter. And the one who is chosen. He paused, looking into the fire, will face a test that will determine if it is worthy of becoming the guardian. I slept bad that night. I dreamed of vast white plains and shadows that moved on the outskirts of my vision. At dawn, we started the hunt. We were about 30 men in total, Comanche, Cherokee, and me, the only white man. We rode in silence, following signs that only the most experienced trackers could see. It was on the second day that we found them. We were crossing a narrow gorge when Black Bull raised his hand, signaling to stop. Ahead, where the gorge opened to a plain, we saw something that challenged all natural logic. A completely white buffalo herd was quietly grazed. No albinos with pink eyes, but white like fresh snow, with eyes that shone like polished obsidian. There was something deeply disturbing in his perfection. They moved with a supernatural grace, and the sunlight seemed to cross them partially, as if they were not totally solid. Now it begins, whispered Black Bull. We dismantled and approached on foot, every man preparing his bow. But as we approached, something extraordinary happened. The buffalo, which until then seemed not to notice us, turned simultaneously toward us. One of them, the biggest of the herd, stepped ahead. His eyes found mine, and I felt as if the world around me disappeared. At that moment, I heard a voice in my mind, not in English, Cherokee, or Comanche, but in a language that transcended words. You who walked between worlds, who met war and peace, who were leader and exiled, you were chosen for the test. The other hunters have reckoned instinctively. Even without hearing their voice, they knew what had happened. Storm Eagle looked at me with a mixture of pride and concern. The big white buffalo chose you, Sam Houston, said Black Bull. Now you should follow you alone. With no alternative, and moved by a compulsion that could not explain, followed the great white buffalo that walked away from the herd. He led me for hours through land that seemed to change and turn around us. Mountains appeared where there were once plains, rivers appeared and disappeared. Finally, we came to a circle of old stones, much older than any indigenous settlement I knew. In the center of the circle, the buffalo stopped and turned to me. The test begins now, the voice echoed in my mind. You must choose. The air around the circle began to erode, and 3 visions materialized before me. In the first vision, I saw the future of Texas and the United States. I saw terrible wars, brother against brother, the divided country. I saw slavery, which I had tried to prevent, leading to destruction and death on an unimaginable scale. I also saw beyond even larger wars, weapons that could destroy whole cities, men walking on the moon. It was a future of wonders and intertwined horrors. In the second view, I saw the fate of the native peoples. I saw your land being taken, your crops destroyed, your children torn from their families and forced to forget their tongues. I saw reservations that were disguised arrests, broken treaties, and a slow cultural genocide that would extend for generations. In the third vision, I saw something different, an alternative path where white and natives found a way of coexisting, where cultures merged without destroying each other, where ancient wisdom was preserved and respected. But this path required a sacrifice. Choose, the voice commanded. Accept the future as you are intended to be, try changing it, or sacrifice to create a new possibility. Then I understood the nature of the test. As a border guardian, I would have the power to influence the course of events, but each choice was price. If I accept the future as it is intended, I asked, what happens? You return to your life, with the knowledge of what will come, but unable to change it. You will live tormented by certainty but safe. What if I try to change it? You will receive power to influence events, but each change will create unpredictable consequences. It may make worse what tries to improve. And the sacrifice? Your life will end here, right now. But your death will create a fissure in the fabric of fate, allowing others to make choices that were once impossible. I was silent for a long moment, the weight of the 3 choices crushing my spirit. I thought of my life, the battles I fought, the decisions I made, the mistakes I made. I thought of Texas, the nation I helped create, and the native peoples I called friends. I especially thought of the Cherokee, who welcomed me when I was a broken man, fleeing a failed marriage and a ruined political career. They taught me that there were other ways to see the world, other ways of living. Is there a 4th option? I asked finally. The white buffalo tilted his huge head, as if surprised. Explain. I do not accept any of the 3 choices as they were presented, I declared, gathering all the authority what years of leadership had conferred me. I proposed something different. The air around seemed to vibrate with tension. Do you dare to negotiate with ancestral spirits? I dare, I answered firmly. Because I learned, living between 2 worlds, that there is always another way. I propose to become the guardian, not to accept fate or change it completely, but to create bridges. Continue. I will use the knowledge and power of the guardian not to change major events, but to preserve what can be saved. I cannot prevent the march of progress or the conflict between cultures, but I can guarantee that something survives: stories, traditions, wisdom. The white buffalo was silent for so long that I thought I offended the spirits. Then slowly he began to transform. Its animal form has dissolved, revealing the figure of an indigenous elder, older than any human being I had ever seen, with eyes that contained the wisdom of countless generations. You have learned well, Sam Houston, said the elder, now speaking in audible voice. This has always been the 4th option, but few are wise enough to see it. You will not be a guardian in the traditional but new age preserving sense. He reached out and touched my forehead. A wave of knowledge flowed through me, not the complete future, but fragments, insights, understanding of patterns and cycles. I saw where it could make small differences that would have great impacts over time. Your work will be subtle, explained the elder. You will save what can be saved, will preserve what should be remembered, and create connections where others would see only divisions. It is not a glorious way, but it is necessary. I accept, said without hesitation. The elder smiled, and his shade began to fade. Then go, preserving. Your work begins now. When the vision dissipated, I found myself alone in the circle of stones. The sun was setting, painting the sky red and gold. There was no sign of the white buffalo or herd. I found the way back to the camp, where the other hunters were looking forward to me. They knew, just looking at me, that something deep had happened. What did you see? Asked Eagle of the Storm. Enough, I said. More than I expected, less than I feared. Black Bull approached and put his hand on my shoulder. The spirits chose well. You will be remembered not as the guardian who prevented the inevitable, but as the one who ensured that something would survive the storm that is to come. In the following years, I discreetly used the knowledge and influence I received. I established schools where native children learned English without forgetting their own languages. I documented stories and traditions that would otherwise have been lost. I created unlikely alliances between white and native leaders who, although not prevented conflicts, saved lives and preserved pockets of culture. When the Civil War exploded, as I had seen in vision, I used my position to protect native communities from being dragged into the conflict. When I refused to swear loyalty to the Confederation and was removed from the position of governor, I accepted this as part of my role. Sometimes preserving means knowing when to withdraw. Until my death in 1863, I continued the silent work of preservation. I kept correspondence with tribal leaders, documenting threatened languages, and established fiduciary funds that would help to maintain vivid cultural traditions. This report of the last hunt was never included in my official memories. Some secrets are too heavy for conventional history. But now, through you, this story is preserved as well, a testimony that even when we face the inevitable, we can choose what to save from the storm. And sometimes, on Texas' quiet nights, I still dream of white buffalo grazing under an impossible sky, and I know that my work as a preserving continues, even beyond death. Before we end this account, if you are visiting our channel for the first time, be sure to subscribe and activate the bell to receive notifications about our upcoming scary stories. Your support means a lot to us, so please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks.